Welcome back into Exit 99 Sports. As always, my name is Caleb Deloach, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Coach Darrin Scott, head coach of Saxony Lutheran. Coach, thank you for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. Good to see you.
And also my former basketball coach as well.
A couple years ago.
So, Coach, jumping right in, you are in year 2 now at Saxony. Practice just started, at time of recording last week. And so, what's the excitement level at, getting back in the gym? You guys fired up, ready to go?
It is. It was neat. Since we got to know this year, when I've stepped in the gym, I knew all the kids' names, which is different than last year. I was still learning who kids were and things. So that's been good. But yeah, I guess a really good group of kids. They work really hard, compete hard. So they're going to keep getting better. Obviously, we just got some of the football guys and some of the soccer guys. And we have so many kids who play multiple sports, so that's a different environment because it takes them a little bit longer. But for our kids, that's been really good for them, and I'm excited. I think we're going to be able to really guard and compete well, so I'm excited to see what they can do. Yeah,
and so before we get into it, we're going to go backwards just a hair to go forward and start with, you resigned as the head coach of Jackson in 2022. Mm-hmm. You said, you now know these kids' names, so back to 2022, you resigned there at Jackson. Did you think that was going to be your last head coaching job on the varsity level when you did that?
I would say at that time, yeah, because I was like, we're getting close to retirement. Kinsey just had Remy, our first grandchild, and so I really didn't have any intentions, and I really loved working for FCA. Right. I told him sometimes what I was getting to do was like being a grandfather of coaching. Yeah, you get to go and talk to a team. You get to like pour into them. You get to do stuff, hang around, and then the coach has to do all the dirty work, and you leave, and then you can just show up again later and talk to them. So, I really enjoyed that. Getting to spend time just watching SEMO practice and being around Coach Korn and doing some things that I really enjoyed. It was not on my radar, which sometimes that's how God works. There's things that aren't on your radar, and then He puts them there for a reason. And now here I am.
Yeah. So those, like you said, God put something new on your radar, and that was become the head coach at Saxony. Kind of what was the, general gist of, the whole circumstance there surrounding taking the job?
Yeah. In May, actually, it was in that summer, I had talked to Mr. Ruark and thought about it, and I just didn't know if it would work with the job I had, because I just started with the FCA doing the area director. And so I said no at that time. They did not find anyone that they felt fit the bill, what they were looking for, I guess. And then in September, they were still looking for somebody, late August. So I talked to Sam Sides at that time, and then I told him I would do it, at least do it for 1 year and see how it goes. And now I'm back for year 2.
Yeah, here's year 2. Yeah. So I'm still here, so it must be going all right.
Yeah, so I keep showing up. I'm a little Kramer,
Exactly.
Just keep showing up.
Just keep showing up. Mm-hmm. Then, jumping into the team, something that's kind of interesting for me, as somebody that played with you, is talking about your coaching staff. Some of the familiar names from the past that are there with you now. Could you go ahead and talk about who was there with you and, kind of what was the circumstances leading them to you guys?
So Coach Abernathy, Tyler Abernathy, he's there. He's helping. Yep. He's now working at the Career Center as an assistant director. And his son Brian is an 8th grader and will probably end up coming to Saxony. Okay. Quinn has got to help me, which has been really neat. He's still finishing up some of his classes, so he's kind of in and out, but he will be done this year. And then depending on his schedule, that's something that we hope he can continue. And then this year, Clayton Carver is helping, who played at Saxony. And he has a doctorate in theology, which I like because I can talk the Bible and talk some stuff and ask him questions.
Cover all the interests.
Yeah, so get everything covered. So all that's been good. I reached out to Coach Barker, but I couldn't convince him.
Couldn't get the whole band back together.
The whole band, but it is one of the things in coaching is if you have a staff that you really enjoy and you like working with, it makes everything so enjoyable. Right. And last year Coach Weezer helped out. He stepped in. He's such a good guy. So yeah, it's been really enjoyable with the staff that we've had working with us.
Right. And Coach Abernathy is one of those guys who has a lot of experience too, which definitely helps. Yes. He coached with you, has that connection, and coached girls at the varsity level for a long time. So kind of neat seeing him back. What's that been like? You guys getting back together after about over a decade apart?
Oh yeah, it's been a while. No, it's been good. And I think at this point too, like he was ready. He wanted to be back involved in the game, so it kind of gave him a chance. Because with his job, it didn't work out perfect. Yep. And even with my job, there's times I have to be gone so that he can be there, and do things. So I think it's been good. And I think we have some different strengths, which I think is a good balance of the things that we like to do. So far it's been good. And we'll see how this year goes.
And then working with your son, what's that like?
Yeah, that's been enjoyable. He loves the game of basketball. and he didn't want to go into teaching and coaching, or he didn't want to go into teaching. He considered, going maybe being a student assistant, doing something. We didn't feel like that was right. He didn't want to take that path. So this is an opportunity now that he can be back in the gym, and he does a really good job with the kids. And it's enjoyable just to get to talk basketball and have him show up is a blessing.
Yeah. So getting into, this year's team, your roster, what's coming back, you guys have, you said all the other sports now wrapped up in the fall. So you kind of got your whole team coming in now starting this week. So you can start me with, guys who started this past year. Like I said, admittedly, I'm a little in the dark about what's coming back on your team. I remember talking about all the kids that graduated off last year's group, but then this year coming into it, one had a lot of questions about, who's back, who played a big role last year that's going to be back playing a role this year.
Yeah, we have, it's going to be up in the air as far as like how the rotation works and things. We've got about 10 kids that all are going to compete and do some different things well. Some of the kids who got quite a bit of playing time last year. Nashawn Davis is back. He played quite a bit. We had some young kids who got to play at different times. Bryce Gabler played, and James Hope played some. Braden Zeldner played. He's back. Corby Ingert played, and he's back. Landon Buckeye got to play some, but he'll be a junior. Played a lot of JV. Okay. So a lot of those kids that played some weren't playing the main players are back. And the good thing about them is they're all very good athletes, competitive. They do a good job of being physical, which really allows us to guard. Yeah. So that's a real benefit. And then we had a kid move in from Wisconsin, Eli Radaman. And he's probably one of our kids. He's a basketball kid, loves basketball, loves to play, and he's played a little bit more. But he's a sophomore. But he's going to be a really good player for us. Has some really good athleticism, handles the ball well, can attack the basket well. So with him in the mix, and then with some other kids who were on the JV, Simon May, really another good kid who works really hard. Even we have a Weston Jeter who didn't play a lot last year, but has come out, plays soccer. So just a lot of kids who do some things. And like I said, it's a weird because I feel like as the year goes on, we'll improve so much because we have kids that like Zach Roth, who started last year and played. He's a baseball, football, basketball guy. So, when they come in, they're not in basketball shape. Yeah. They about died a little bit today, which is good for them. Yep. But as we're going to get in the gym, we've talked about coming in early and shooting. And then I think they're committed to that. So if we can continue to improve our skills, some of their character that I think is really good will show up and help them win games. Yeah. And so I know something, very important. Obviously, every basketball coach will say that is the case, but something very important playing for you is getting down and guarding, being able to, keep people in front of you. How has that element of the team, been coming along that side of the ball been for you guys? Yeah, it's been really good because we just feel like we've got Zach, who played last year, Nashawn, Eli, the new kid can, Bryce can, Simon can, with Weston Jeter can, and Braden, he's done a good job of that, but they all can guard the ball. That's one of the things I didn't know what we would have going in. And right now having 4 or 5 kids that can all guard the ball really helps you be able to play well defensively. Now foul issues aren't as big a deal because you can sub and free and not drop off. So that's something that we're going to have to hang our hat on, is being able to force some turnovers and force some things with our defense. Yeah, I liked, one guy I mentioned in particular, Nashawn Davis. Yeah, I liked watching him play quite a bit last year. He's a really, really good multi-sport athlete, really good out on the track, super athletic kid. What's he kind of bring to your roster? Yeah, he just brings some explosiveness, can go past people. And he's really committed to working on his toughness and just being more consistent. He's such a good kid and would get down on himself sometimes last year. And that was probably his biggest detriment. And I think that's something, I think he's really grown. I think track was really good for him. He had a really good track year. Had some injuries late, but had some really good success and has really matured. And so we need him to do that. Because if he gets down and guards like he can, and then really is aggressive and sprints and runs the floor and looks to attack the basket, he's a handful. Yeah. Yeah. And you guys, you play a pretty tough schedule throughout the year. You play some schools that are bigger. You play schools a lot from around the area, especially you're in a few different tournaments. How's that been, trying to challenge your guys playing some tougher competition? I mean, just looking right at the beginning at St. John, Poplar Bluff, start the year. Yeah, I think, you're always looking for a competition that's good for your kids, that's going to challenge them. Obviously you don't want to make it too tough and then you get beat up every day, and then you don't want to make it too easy, where you're not challenging yourself. So you're trying to find a mix. So that's been tough at this point, just kind of also figuring out who we are. So I think this year our schedule is pretty good, but we'd like to keep improving. Kids keep getting better, and then keep making our schedules a little bit tougher. Right. Because I think for us, if we could be in the 15, 18 wins or 15 wins or so and play a tougher schedule, that's much more of an advantage than winning 20 and having an easier schedule.
So what has the experience kind of been like of starting really late, getting into a program? You said September. So
last year.
What is that like, starting in September and trying to build, something new? You were at Jackson for a really, really long time, but you've been coaching for a long time as well. So, you have the experience going to multiple different schools, different sizes. So what's that been like starting over a little bit, kind of building from the ground up? Because that was a team when you were coming into it, I know they lost a lot from the year before.
Well, they lost a lot, and then we even lost a kid, Wes Keeney, who was going to play. Probably could have been one of our better players. He got a concussion. It's like his third one.
Man.
So he ended up not playing. Had another big kid have a toe injury. So we went from thinking, all right, we're going to have these big kids, and we were going to play a certain way, like more of a 3-out, 2 in, and some big kids, and all of a sudden they were gone. So we basically, and we were going to run some pack line defense, and now we have changed. We've done 180 degrees, so now we're spread, no post guy, which has been enjoyable, just to coach that. Now we're going to press. We're going to be able to run and jump a little bit, trap, do some things. So we went the complete opposite of the pack line. So now we're back to take away the middle, pressure, force, rotate, and
literally the opposite.
We're going to plan on switching every screen this year.
Okay.
So complete opposite.
Yeah. So the building for you, the starting something new, has it been, a fun new challenge for you? Kind of, whatever. People always say energizing, things like that. What's that been like for you? I
think so. And I think for this, what I've liked, for me personally, what I've liked is I think I have kids, I told them, I think they're really smart. They have good, they think well. But some of them haven't played as much basketball. So the challenge is, all right, so how can we do a system and how can we teach things so that you can pick those up faster? Everybody needs a certain amount of reps to learn things. So in our case, when we have kids who are going to play multiple sports, which has been enjoyable, I think it gives them, and they bring some freshness in that case. But when they play multiple sports, you're going to get less reps.
Right.
So your reps are more important. So how can we do a really good job in practice when we do have time in the summer of the way we teach it is making sure that it hits them well and they can pick it up faster. Where maybe instead of needing 30 reps, you could do it in 25, or 20 or something to that effect. So that's been good. And it's been challenging. And what I like for the kids is I think they've done a good job of trying to challenge themselves mentally, watching some film. Like before we went out for practice today, watching some things we did yesterday so they could see it, clipping some things so they could see it. And then when they can see it and then go out on the floor, they've really picked it up well. So I'm excited to see, how much we can expand on that as the year goes on.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to elaborate more on that of, something playing for you that I did enjoy was when we did get the opportunity to kind of watch film and all the things you clipped out for us, stuff like that, watching. How beneficial do you think it is for, high schoolers to kind of see that and then, kind of the visual learning type, a lot of kids are. How's that?
I think it's almost like in our spiritual walk or spiritual blindness, just where we never see things as they are very often. We always kind of have our perception is always a little skewed. So the more you can show it to them in different ways, mentally, or like see it, then they're physically out there doing it. But then on the board and having them write it down and doing those things, I think the more we can do that. And we're trying to do, instead of running a pattern offense, we're trying to run a little bit more concepts, actions, and maybe call some things early, but then trying to teach them to get into some actions, which I really like. Right. We'll see if we can keep doing that throughout the year. But, I just think it's really enjoyable. And when you can teach kids how to play, that's always that's always fun.
Exactly. And so another thing I really like asking coaches about is kind of what's the off season look like for you guys? So your season ended, last year in March. You have a lot of kids that play, baseball and then football and things like that. So I know their schedule's really occupied with other things. But what does the basketball calendar look like for you guys in the off season at Saxony?
Yeah, I don't know. They'll probably change again this year because we're still trying to figure out that same thing, right? So what's the most efficient and most beneficial for us to do in the summer for our kids? Because what I don't want is you got a kid that you're trying to, because I think all our kids are good kids. So if you put enough pressure on them, you could kill them and wear them out, and they could do everything they could, baseball, football, basketball wise. So you're like, okay, how can we work together and how can we efficiently do it so they have a chance to be good? Because like I said, we're not doing them a service if we don't try to apply, some training in the off season so that they have the best chance to be successful when they get in season.
Right.
And on the flip side, being the adults in the room and realize, okay, if my kid's playing 3 sports, what is it? How much should he do with us? Yeah. How much should, we just say that it is what it is and we got to try to get better in season, because basketball is a long season that you can get a lot better as you work throughout the year.
And so you guys play tournaments around the area, anything like that in the off season?
So we've got the
off season, yeah.
Last year we went to Rib City. What I just wanted those kids to see some other competition, do some things that were different. Yeah, so I don't know if we'll do that this summer or not. We may just try to use our days where we just do stuff in the gym with ourselves, and then maybe, reach out to some local coaches like Scott City came last year and where we scrimmage, because that seemed to be more beneficial.
I think so.
So it's just, I just don't know that we'll ever be able to, because it's kind of like the feeding thing. If you can't get all the kids because there's baseball, like last year, what struck me is we played in a Rib City, had a kid play baseball game at 8 and then come play basketball. And I'm just like, I don't know if I really want them doing that.
Yeah.
I don't know if
and are they getting better?
Yeah, like that's so. For us, we needed to play some games. I felt like it was good for them to see some different things. Yeah. And so I do think it was beneficial. But like even next year, we'll be a little bit further along with implementing some things. So I don't know if we'll need to or not. I think we'll have to. After this year, we'll talk about it, try to decide, get some input from the seniors and the kids and kind of ask them, all right, so what was the things we did that you felt was the most beneficial for you to improve as a player?
Yeah. And talking about, player improvement, big thing that's really, I feel like, increased exponentially, since I was in high school about 10 years ago, is kind of individual training, and then also kind of the AAU travel ball route. And I know you've had, I know Quinn's worked with, people individually. He played all over the air, all over the country, things like that. How beneficial, or, maybe the opposite way, do you feel that, individual training, things like that, and also going out and playing travel ball is for kids?
Yeah, of course, it depends on the kid and depends on the situation. And then there's just so much, like anything else, who's coaching them. And then even in the individual training, like, what are they doing training-wise?
Right.
I think the thing about basketball that has stuck out to me is it's hard if you do an individual trainer to work on things like penetrate, kick, passing, move without the ball. Yeah. Some 5-on-5 things. And in my only frustration, we always tried to find a team, but is if you get on a team and they never practice.
Yeah.
So now if you never practice, you're just playing games. Now you're like, all right, how much better are we getting? Yeah. And I know, like, everybody I get exposure teams, and that is part of it, I realize. But for the most part, I think sometimes we overvalue playing games and undervalue just playing pickup and playing scrimmage and probably working on our game.
Yeah, because when you're just, like you said, practicing, even, I know a lot of bigger travel teams practice once a week, and then you go play a bunch of games on the weekend. Like you said, you could do that, say, hey, other kids that you're in school with and kids from wherever, Jackson, Notre Dame, go get together and play basketball. You get similar effect.
You could. It's kind of I think what we've done as adults, somewhat, not always. And once again, everything is always, there's two ditches, and you're trying to get back to the middle. But we've almost planned things so much for kids that they don't plan on their own.
Right.
But I do think there was someone that was going to a trainer, and I think a lot of the trainers have good hearts. So I am not opposed. I do think that sometimes when it comes to this would hit all sports, volleyball, baseball, whatever, you can kind of prey on the anxiety of the parents and the fear of missing out, and like, oh, if I don't do this for my kid, they'll fail. Like, they won't. So that part is mixed in there. But I do think that a lot of times they mean well, but it was like they were saying, well, our kid's just not getting better. And I'm like, well, probably because your kid just needs to learn how to catch the ball and pivot and pass it.
Right.
Like they're in 3rd grade or 4th grade, and like they probably just need. It's no offense, but the drills they need to do, they don't need a guy that really knows all that much basketball.
Yeah, we're not trying to get install a bunch of dribble moves and go around XYZ cones here.
And then at the end of the day, too, even in high school basketball, you at high levels they do stuff, but most of the time it's the simple things that you've got to be a lot better at. Right. So I think sometimes that can be missed out because we work every day. Can you pass it with 2 hands, catch it with 2 hands, catch it on 2 feet, play on 2 feet, 2 eyes.
Because
can you be strong with it?
Because when when that's happening in a game, there's going to be 9 other people surrounding you. It gets a lot harder. So just being able to do it consistently in practice and do it right, I feel like very, very important. Translates a lot better.
Yeah, fundamentals don't happen unless you do them over and over and then consistently. And so going back to your first question, I think it's like a lot of things in life. Trainers are not good or bad. It depends on the trainer and how you use them and your philosophy of what you're trying to get out of life. Right. Travel ball, same thing. It's kind of morally neutral. Depends on the coach, depends on your situation and what you're trying to get out of it. Both of them can be good or bad depending on the situation.
So going to ask you about some more, things involving your past before you came over to Saxony. So you originally from the St. Louis area, right? So what was your background personally in sports, playing and things like that?
Was never a great player. Well, one of my problems was I think as a freshman I was like 5'4", 5'5". My dad was 5'9". I can remember thinking like, man, if I get to be 5'9", that would be amazing.
Like, that'd be game changing.
Yeah, that could be like, and then going back to my 10 or 15 year reunion and seeing guys that I felt were 4 inches taller than me, were the same height as freshmen. But yeah, so never great, but played baseball, basketball, and football. Probably like, I guess I should have known maybe I was going to coach. I think it was my sophomore year of football. Yeah, because I would be the backup quarterback, so I would play, and I'd always be with the offense coordinator. We'd chart things and do stuff, and then he was going to miss for a game. And so when he missed, the other coach was going to call the plays, and like he tried to call 2 plays, and then I told him like, you can't call that. That doesn't fit. He goes, you just start calling them. So I got to call the rest of the game, and then I had to go in later because the quarterback got hurt. But anyway, long story short, I guess that was a sign that maybe playing is not going to be in my future. Yep. Maybe coaching is more of a thing. Yeah, and then the same thing in basketball. My dad, speaking of travel ball, was coaching my brother's. I was in high school, so he's probably like 6th grade, 7th, somewhere in there. He's coaching their little travel team, and he got mad at him and said, they don't listen. I'm not like, he got mad, so I'll coach them. So I coached the second half. Then we changed and put a press, and then it was one of those, it went well, and then we ended up coming back and winning, and then I got the bug, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. I think I'm going to coach. So that kind of directed everything from there. So I went to SEMO. I knew that, all right, well, if I'm not playing in college, how could I get learned? How could I gain an advantage somehow? So I just remember I decided one day, someone said, well, you ought to be like, ask Coach Shumate if you could be a student manager or assistant or something. So I walked across campus. He was in his office. I went in and told him my name, what I wanted to do. And he said, all right, you're hired that day. And then
one of the easiest job interviews you probably had.
Yeah, it was. But but if I hadn't done that, I mean, I don't think I would be sitting in the places, or nothing would have fallen like it was, because that was a game changer of just seeing sports from a whole different level of competitiveness and learning, and then the connection. So it was really, really like one of the key things was, it's something that's crazy how something that simple is like you actually decided to walk across campus, go in and ask Coach Shumate for a chance, and he gives it to you, and that's a life changer.
Right. So then you get into coaching after graduating. First stop is Poplar Bluff, right?
Yep. So I was an assistant at Poplar Bluff. I got hired, and I graduated because I didn't want to miss basketball. So I made my student teaching be like the next year in the fall. Okay. So I graduated in December, and they happened to have a math teacher that got fed up and wanted out. So he left mid-year, which left a job open.
Crazy how things like that happen.
I got hired and coached freshman football, JV football, or freshman basketball, JV football, and tennis. And then a couple years later, a year after that, the JV coach for basketball left, and I got to do JV. Yeah. So I coached 3 sports for a while to start out.
So I hear that a lot from a lot of different coaches that are now head coaches. It's like, yeah, I started out, didn't know anything about cross country, then I was coaching cross country. Or didn't know anything about volleyball, and I was coaching volleyball. How valuable is that experience, learning how to coach, doing things that you don't have an expertise in?
I think it's good, and I think the thing that sticks out to me at that time, they just wanted people to coach and be in the classroom, because I think principals really valued like a coach who was there, who was around, just how it could impact the school.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like, discipline didn't change. Like, you knew how to make kids act right.
Yeah,
you're going to line up, do what you're supposed to do. Like when I coached tennis, I was like, I played most of the time with them because I'm like, I don't know what else we can do. So you can just play tennis. And obviously, since I was the tennis coach, we weren't expecting too much out of that guy. No, but it was just really good. And so I think, coaching those 3 sports at that time, it was just a different, the off seasons were different. You could coach multiple sports.
Right.
But the camaraderie with just getting to know all the kids and then getting to coach with different coaches was really a neat time.
Yeah. So then you get your first head coaching gig is then at Greenville. Is that right?
Right.
How did that come about? And what was that experience like?
Oh, because when you're young, you've gone for a while, and you're like, I got to be a head coach. Like, I've got to take a job somewhere. And the guy that Jamie Bell was the principal there. And so he had played for Larry Morgan back at Clearwater. So he had said, hey, Rick Rainwater had coached there for a while. He was going to move out, get into administration. So I came up and interviewed, and it seemed like they had a decent group coming. And so I took that job and was there for 2 years. Yep. So we put in the weight room. This will tell you how things could be different. So in 1996 or 7, you could do this. I was like, no, we really need a weight room. There's no way we can be good if we don't have a weight room. He was like, all right, let me think. So there was a hallway in the back behind the gym. And they just he was going to just put a wall and a wall and put a door. But he said, the fire department said we can't do that. So we're just going to put half a wall. We bought 4 racks, and that was our weight room.
There we go.
Yeah. So we had a weight room that had no doors, no no way to stop it. And then we were probably breaking fire code anyway.
Right.
But everybody was okay with it, so our kids could get better. So.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what it's about. So how, beneficial, I guess, was that maybe even later, starting out somewhere smaller, maybe with not, the resources you had later on in your career? How did that help you kind of get creative like that at times?
I think so. And I think just, like every place is different. And probably once you leave, sometimes you can recognize like the advantages. Yeah. Like at that point, I didn't realize like those kids they were so tough. Like they were not all basketball kids.
Yeah.
But man, they were going to compete hard and they were going to go hard. I still remember the first time. So I was at Bluff and then went to Greenville.
Yep.
And then I know we're talking about it, but when I went to Notre Dame, just to tell you the difference in like coaching different kids and different types of kids. Yeah. And I'm at Notre Dame, and I've been there like for a little bit. Some kid asked me for ibuprofen. And I was like, what are you talking about, ibuprofen? And he goes like, yeah, I got, my knee hurts. I got some swelling. I'm going to take ibuprofen. And I had never, at that point in my career, I was like, well, you got a headache? Why would you take ibuprofen? I mean, it was just perplexing to me. Like no kid I had ever taken, that I knew of, had taken ibuprofen. Right. And they surely had not asked me for it, if I know that much. So you just got so many different kids, and they're all different. But at the end of the day, you have one goal: is you're trying to teach them how to compete, how to get better, how to improve. Just basically, somewhere down the road, this is going to impact their life. Yeah, it's going to teach them some life lessons, and they can grow and become better people.
Yeah, yeah, because not everybody that plays the sport has college basketball in their mind, but then after they get done playing. So, how important is that as a coach, keeping wins and losses also teach a lesson, but also just improving people as young men? How hard is that, or what important is that to keep the focus on?
Yeah, I think it's hard because I think for me, at least personally, just talking early, it was easy to tell a kid like, you're done, you're not going to play. Yeah. And then as I got older, and I think my faith was always a part, but you try to make it more like, then you're like, okay, well, this could really help this kid. This could change his life. And maybe you stick with kids too long. And you think like, all right, you give them too many chances when you should have cut them loose, because that would have been better for him. You thought like, oh, I can change this kid or save his life. So at the end of the day, I think the reality is there's only one way kids change is it's through Jesus, like when their heart changes. Right. What you're trying to do is teach them principles and put them in spots, and hopefully they, at some point maybe that does kick in. Yeah. But it's hard because I think there's so many times like you're trying to balance what's best for the team, what's best for the individual, and how that fits together. Yeah. And there's never always an easy answer. Right. And I do think that's where sometimes the tension can fall in for coaches.
Mm. So then, you mentioned already, you go from Greenville to Notre Dame, first dabble in private school basketball. What was that? I mean, obviously a culture change, but what was that experience like, and how did, where did the, job interest even come from for you?
Well, like the crazy thing is, so we went back to Bluff because I felt like Greenville was going to hit it. They're going to not be very good. They had an assistant job open. So I'm like, I think I'm going to go back there. And then really was contemplating at that point, all right, so do I want to try to find another job, or do I want to go into administration? And so I had applied at Crothersville and at Notre Dame, and I didn't think I had a chance to get the Notre Dame job. Yeah. Crothersville offered me the job, and me and my wife, we can talk about it, but she was obviously, once Notre Dame offered, she felt that was a better family job, which she was correct. But I will say that Crothersville had Norman Prater, and they were really good at that time. Yeah, they were good. So I didn't think I had a chance to get the Notre Dame job, to be honest. I just felt in my mind it was a good job. Like there were going to be people apply, and maybe like I think Brother David, who was part of the interview, and Chris Janet, I came in with like 7 notebooks trying to talk about stuff. So maybe that tricked them into thinking it was a good decision. But it was a really good. It was a good experience those 4 years, and I was lucky because anytime you can come in and I had a group of sophomores that was good. Right. I had seniors that was good, and the junior class was good too. But I had a core group of sophomores who were really good, good kids, good parents. They were easy to coach, really coachable. And then you had a group of seniors who wanted to have a really good year. So that first year went well. And then having that sophomore group for 3 years makes things so much easier. Right. So I was spoiled with my first head coaching job, to be honest. Yeah. And so you, at this point, how long into being a head coach would you say? How many years was that? As first year at Notre Dame? 2. So after just a couple of years, you go to a school that did have a lot of athletic success in the past, things like that. Did that, as a young coach, kind of weigh on you, kind of the expectation, things like that at all? The thing about being young and dumb, you don't think about stuff like that. you just show up and start coaching, and you just think, oh, we're just going to get better, and we're just going to compete and win games, and we'll figure out a way to do it. And sometimes it's, for lack of a better term, I mean, this would even fit that young and dumb. So we were at Bluff, me and Jan. So she's pregnant with Maddie, has a million sick days. So being pregnant's not going to be an issue.
Right.
So then we decided, like, hey, we don't want to, like, that's too easy. Let's go ahead and move. And then that way you'll only have 10 sick days. And then, long story short, you end up going bed rest. So we had that. So many things we did that probably, if you went hindsight, you're like, that is not a good life decision.
Bad mistake number one, number two.
This is not a good decision. But once again, like, everybody's like, were you worried we did this? I just think sometimes when you are focused on the task at hand, you don't have time to get worried.
Right.
So until later, you realize, oh, man, that was God really looking out for us, so that worked out.
Exactly.
That probably was not our best decisions in our life.
Yeah. So you're at Notre Dame, and that's your first head coaching experience in the SEMO conference. You had been obviously at Poplar Bluff in the SEMO conference before, but SEMO conference, especially then, I'm trying to think, had, a lot of guys who were legends, some very, very good players. The Hansboroughs then around that same time period were at Poplar Bluff as well. And so what was that like too, just being, early coach, young coach jumping headfirst into a really, really good basketball conference?
That was my fault partly too. So about being young and dumb, because we were not in the SEMO conference when I came there.
Oh, okay.
And then I thought we should get in it. So their third year, when it was Corey Sink and like Travis Ebert and Wayne Esner and Tyler Cuba, they were seniors. That was our first year in the SEMO conference.
Oh, okay.
And that would have been Tyler Hansborough's sophomore year. Yeah, that was his sophomore year.
Interesting.
Bluff was really good those next two. Those couple of years.
Yeah, they had a couple good years.
Yeah. So it was. So that was. So it was different, but at being an assistant at Bluff, I just kind of felt like that was, I don't know, it didn't, once again.
That just was the level you expected.
Didn't overthink it. Yeah. Just it was like, we're just going to try to compete and like see what happens.
Yep. And so, to keep hitting the fast forward button, you end up at Jackson then after a few years at Notre Dame. What led you to the Indians?
One of the big things was just Notre Dame's not in the public retirement system.
Okay.
So you had those 4 years. Mackenzie was going to go into kindergarten. So it was kind of like a decision of like, all right, so are we staying here? Are we going to get back into public school? Where's Mackenzie going to go to school?
Right.
Like, are we going to be that family where you coach at one place and your kids go another? Like, so you had that whole dynamic involved. And then, the Jackson job came open. And then I took that. Basically, it would have been mostly it was the retirement in the family of like, all right, now we're all at the same school.
Yep.
And so obviously when you retire later down the road at 53 or 52, 2022, you're like, okay, that was a good decision.
Yeah.
And now I can do something else.
Exactly. So there's other job question. Did you always teach math?
I did always teach math.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you tell them you can teach math and you have a degree, you never get out of it.
Yeah. I figure that's in high demand, especially coaching combination of math.
Yeah. There's just not, the math teachers they just don't grow on trees.
Exactly. Makes sense. It's a special choice there in teaching math. Had you for geometry. Learned a lot. I tell people all the time, I'm like, I don't use a ton of math like that we use in high school day to day. And I'm like, the one high school math subject I can tell anybody about is I can help you with angles. I can do geometry. I got all the shapes down. I remember that. Your class left an impact.
The funny thing is, so I had to start teaching geometry. That was the first time I taught it, was at Jackson.
Really?
And then after my last, I don't know, a lot of years, that was all I taught. So I grew to like it. And one of the things I really like, sounds crazy, but I love was the proofs, because and it's not that they were going to do proofs, but it made kids think.
Right.
And logically think.
Yeah.
And even with the angles.
Yeah.
Like there's this logic. And it's just funny how you're not going to use that part of math, but if you would use the thinking skills that apply and that overall strategy, that will help you in life.
Yep.
And I'm taking a class from my master's in biblical counseling, immaterial man versus physical man. And the guy today was talking about postulates and theorems and then comparing that to how do we know truth and how do we know some things? And I was like, there you go. See, geometry is at the core of all things.
I know this.
Geometry is at the core of all things.
All right. So you were at Jackson for 18 years?
18 years.
18 years. So, I mean, you saw, not to, make you feel old here, but like you saw kids, go through their brothers, their sisters, or all younger siblings. I mean, kids born and graduated by the time you started there and then finished there. What was the experience like being at one place and really just setting your own kind of foundation and your own system there for so long?
It was neat to see that, and get to know kids, and you have a few brothers and some of that stuff. So that is neat. And then just like later when you get out, then it becomes easier, even just having kids that Jake, till he moved, was my eye doctor.
Yep.
So that's your eye doctor. I guess I'll have to drive to Arkansas now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
To go to the eye doctor. But yeah, having those relationships like that is neat. And you wish you could have probably more. It's hard to keep up with all of them, but I think that's the biggest thing. And there was even times you're like, I wonder what it would be like, because some guys, like coaches, stayed at the same school for like 30 years.
Right.
And to think like, all right, if I'd have been at Bluff my entire career, how many different kids and your families.
Yeah, and you'd be getting parents and their kids.
Yes, and that's kind of a neat thing. So I do think that's a neat thing.
Yeah, and we talked about earlier, the assistant coaches that you have now, you had a previous relationship with them. What was that like also, kind of as you were at multiple schools, seeing different people, different places, kind of accumulating those relationships, and then the process of like choosing, hiring assistant coaches?
Yeah. And of course, obviously in high school it's different because you're trying to do a teacher. It's like you don't have full control.
Right.
You're trying to hopefully get some guys that you like. So I really felt like I was blessed and spoiled for that longest stretch because Tyler came on.
Yep.
He was a great assistant. Then when about the time he left, Corey Barker came on. He was amazing. Yep. Mike Holloway came on. He was amazing. Yep. And then Corey, who's there now, he came and helped. And of course, he was a Jackson guy who loved Jackson basketball. Yep. So you have all those guys that make it make it fun to be around. Because one of the things you really enjoy is like after practice or before, when you get to hang out with those guys.
Yeah.
Be in the coach's office. It's a fun time.
And so now we're gonna talk about we're gonna get my own personal part of this podcast out, which is just talking about Jackson basketball things that we experienced there. So I think my senior year we went to the state quarterfinals, and that was the first time that Jackson had reached that point. That's I think like 1980 or something like that.
It would have been a while because Coach Burke did it. It was been Coach Burke, obviously.
Yeah.
It would have been. I thought they did it twice, maybe. Like it was 89 and maybe one.
Maybe 90.
92 or 91.
Something like that.
Maybe. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, but there's been that long stretch.
A little while, yeah.
And, that was your, year, 8, 9, something like that. What did you feel like kind of helped push you over that hump, start winning? You went on a great run there, winning district titles, things like that.
That's a good question. I mean, I think that group was really special. Yeah. You just had a lot of guys who really were bought in, focused on the task at hand. Had the coaching staff, I think, did a really good job of us, preparing kids how to play, maybe, if that's a good thing. But at the end of the day, I think back, Josh Downey had a stress fracture a lot of that year.
Yeah.
And we beat Chaminade in the sectional game. He had a great game. Carson played well.
It was unbelievable.
But then there's so many kids that, we're like, well, how good they were a player all year? Braxton McDowell. Chaminade went to a 1-3-1 zone. We were not going to score the rest of the game, I was convinced. They were long. They had Jason Tatum, obviously.
Yeah.
Their biggest kid. They were long. And then Braxton, he just stuck a 3 from the O-zone.
Yep.
And when he made it, they got out of their 1-3-1. And then they slow. And then even the simple thing like this, we were down 2. We missed a free throw. It wasn't Carson that shot the free throw. I can't remember who shot it.
I think it was Braxton.
I think it was. And he did a good job missing this one because he gets tipped. And then Tatum makes a crucial mistake.
Coach, what do you always tell people not to do under the basket?
Never throw it underneath your own basket.
Never.
And he does it, and Carson takes a step back, catches it, hits a 3, we go up 1.
Great chest pass.
Yeah.
Right to Carson.
Yeah. And then what's crazy is, we, Quinn, just because of that, and we've always liked the Celtics, so he became a Tatum fan, but we saw him going into Webster Groves in the summer.
Yeah.
And when he came up, the guy with him said something about, oh, you're from Jackson. And you could see he'd said something, but he had just played well the night before. But it was neat. Quinn got a picture with him. But, yeah, it was kind of crazy to think that guy right there is making millions of dollars playing the game of basketball.
Yep.
But
yeah, that's my only fun fact for young people nowadays is I'm like, you see that guy?
Yeah.
We beat that guy.
Yeah.
I'm 1-0 in the playoffs against Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
It's my one fun fact there.
Yeah. So, I think all of that stuff, winning that game, and then, of course, we played DeSmet the next game. They were really good.
Yeah, there's never been a faster whiplash in my life of wow, yeah, we really felt I felt personally going to the CBC game, just whatever the things we went over and the talk, personnel conversations we had. It was I feel like we can beat this team. And then it's like you get there like to the DeSmet game, and you get like you buy into that as well. And then it was about a minute into the game, I was like, I don't think we can score. Yeah, well, I don't know if we can do
that. We were struggling to score. That's where kind of like even Josh being out all year showed up more in that game than it did in the Chaminade game, because he was much like once he like the next year showed it when he could actually get in shape and could play. Yeah, like he could. But then I'd even like Coach Kennedy, he had coached at Eureka, and we had talked. I called him talking about how we could take away their high-low, because they had the Nolan Berry kid was really good. Yep. But the Bosch kid, 6'5", 6'6" kid, like he was a really good high school player.
He was really good high school player.
And he was just talking about the fact that if they get in high-low, you can't guard them. So we were going to try to play off. And the Plackmeyer kid could shoot it some, so you knew we were going to try to get on him. But the other two, I'm going to forget their names, but the athletic guard, Shackelford, I think, they had another guard,
and they had Jimmy Barton, the point guard.
Yeah. So it was Barton and Shackelford. Yeah. We were like, okay, we're going to have to like really help. We're going to super help off them. And Coach Kennedy said, hey, just so you know, Coach, if they make shots, you're not beating them. And I wanted to call him like at halftime and be like, hey,
you were right.
Yeah, not only we're not going to beat them, like they went 9 for 11 in the first half from 3.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, that's not going to work out.
Yeah, I've never experienced just a faster avalanche, I don't think, in those years playing basketball for you. Yeah. That was a whiplash.
Yeah, they were good, and they played really well on that day.
They did. Yeah, no,
we probably maybe didn't play as well as we could have, but most of it had to do with them, I feel like.
So one fun question I have for you here. We're gonna look back on all the years you've been coaching. I need you to create a all-time Darrin Scott starting 5.
Oh man,
I'll put you on the spot here. A lot of players, a lot of good players.
So all-time, like
all-time, yeah.
All schools and everything.
Yeah, every player you coached. Make this really difficult for you.
It would be tough because you can go on like kids that you like, and there's always there's kids that are like, okay, I don't know if he's the greatest player, but like, hey, I'd put him out there just because. Like, I had a kid at Notre Dame, Corey Biesink. He's only like 6'2".
Yeah, he
had 22 rebounds against New Madrid. Like, and then I think about that now, and I'm like, how in the world did you get 22 rebounds against him? But he was just so like he just played so hard. Yeah, and was such hard.
I feel like there were guys like that all the time. Like we played, the Garrett twin, Roper and Ryder.
Oh yeah,
were really good at the one kid was really good at SEMO football. Yeah. I remember that kid was like 6'1", and we beat them. Last year I remember playing against those kids, but yeah, that kid had like a 20-20 game, and I'm like, you are 8 inches taller than every post player we have. Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And then you go like just Jackson kids. Carson was so fun to coach. Because he could do so many things on offense, and then when him and Blake playing together, they were so good.
That was
going early. Like Jake was always like, because Jake was so competitive. If I could have just had Jake play against Notre Dame every game he played, he'd average 30-something points.
Turned it on for the big one.
He'd play well, and we played Notre Dame, and it'd be like it was a whole nother level. He got to that level where you're like, oh man, we could find a way to get you to be at that level all the time, man.
I think Notre Dame did bring it out of a lot of your Jackson kids. Yeah, like over the years, like kids I played with, and then like some of the later ones. There were some special performances, like Braden and Blake had some crazy games against Notre Dame as well.
Yes. Yeah. And then you just have so many kids, like even Braden. Like you just forget. Like I think sometimes people forgot how athletic he was.
Yeah,
because he was kind of sneaky athletic, and all of a sudden you would see him go and he'd jump, and you're like, holy cow.
Yeah, no, like you would never expect it. Like you said, he just gets one backdoor cut, and it's just like he's dunking over people.
Yeah, like where did that come from? So just so many kids. Like it would almost be impossible to pick an all-star team. But yeah, you would have to, like, if you're picking some from all of them, and then even going back to when I was at Bluff, there were some kids I really liked, even like JV wise, I coached.
Yeah.
Like even now, since I get to work for FCA, I get to go in that area more often, right. And see some of those kids. Like one kid, God bless him, he got to be coached by me in my earliest years, where you're super crazy. I kicked him out of the game. Like he went out. I was mad. He wasn't playing hard. I told him to sit on the end of the bench. And then the other kid that I put in for him was turning it over. And Raymond, I looked at him and I told him, I said, hey, if you're not going to the game, just get out of here. Well, he took it as I kicked him out of the game. I was like, well, there you go. Kick the kid out of the game.
I love that.
Told him to go home. He's not going to be ready to play. But kids like that. And then what's crazy is, like, you would think that would ruin the relationship and you just would never talk to him again. We talked all the time. It's just, I don't know. Coaching can be, it's a surreal, and there's a lot of emotion, and there's a lot of other things that go into it. And then what you hope is, eventually, like even when we're talking about that, is once they graduate and they're out, they realized that you really did want them to be as good as they could be.
Right.
Maybe you probably didn't do it the way you should all the time. Probably, made some mistakes, like, because everybody's human and you don't do things perfectly. But at the end of the day, your main desire was, how could I get you to get to the highest points that you could be? Because that's kind of what the name coach comes from.
Yeah.
Like, you have carriage coach.
Right.
It's supposed to take a person of importance to where they want to go, and that's what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
But, so I avoided the all-star team by saying that.
You did. That's a good job. That was a good job. You got the whole crew in there. Yeah, you did. You had some very, very talented teams. There were some fun teams, especially, like I said, whenever I was there, and then the years following, those teams that all did made runs to the quarterfinals. A lot of very, very talented teams. Would you pick one over the other as far as just pure talent goes? You have one team that's like, this team could probably beat every other one of my teams.
It would have been like Carson and like when JD and Calvin
their senior year,
just because there were so many different kids that could do things.
That team was unbelievably deep.
Yeah, and then just like they fit together well.
Yeah,
that doesn't always happen. Sometimes you can have a talented team, but it's
right.
You have multiple pieces that are harder to get together, and then some pieces fit together well.
Is there any skill to having that happen, or is it just kind of luck and the fact that like these kids just like each other and they have personalities that mesh, things like that?
Yeah, you want to say you take all the credit, like, oh, we did all this stuff and we were building the fancy culture world, and we're doing this, and you feel like you're trying to as a coach, you want to encourage that, and you're trying to hold them to a standard. But at the end of the day, like if you talk to a college coach, you talk to NBA, you talk to a business person, they will talk about their culture and how they try to build it, but they'll say the number one thing is who you hire, who you recruit is the most important part. So I think from that standpoint, there is a lot that's inherently built in that you have, like that group. They were easy to get to buy into stuff and to like, to do stuff. You're trying to make it as good as you can, but they were easy to do that. So at the end of the day, I would give them more credit than anything we did as a coaching staff to get them how they would play.
Right. That team was very good. They pushed that CBC team that was the best team in the state.
Yeah,
really, really fun. I mean, that was a loaded team because you have Carson and Blake. That mid-range, high-low look was unbelievable. And then you also have Brandon Leaders at center. You have Braden, JD out at guard. I mean, then guys behind them, like somebody I always tell kids about when it's like, hey, they're like, oh yeah, this kid and this kid were the best from this time period. I was like, there are these people like Calvin, Lysell, Connor Shepard. Just ruined so many people's lives in Southeast Missouri for 2 or 3 years, having to, try to score against those guys.
It was like, and Calvin could score.
Yeah.
Like against that CBC game, he played well, hit some threes.
Right.
And the thing about him was he was super competitive, but yet had no worry about who was getting the glory or what.
Yeah.
They just wanted to compete. That team, I mean, there was like a 5-point game late, and that team, the CBC team, just talking about how good they were. You had the kid,
This team's unbelievable. Yeah,
the Barnes
kid,
point guard.
He went
to Texas. So Barnes went to Indiana State. Well,
Indiana State.
Missouri Valley Player of the Year.
Yeah.
They had the other kid who went to Arkansas State.
Yep.
Had the shooter went to an NA high school.
Yeah, because they had and that was Patrick McCall, that was the year after he graduated maybe, and
he was CBC, but he would have been. Let me think. He left.
Yeah, he just so
it was him and
left
the other
the team.
One left.
Yeah,
which kind of made him better, actually.
Yeah, to say as far as team goes. But yeah, that guy was out there. He won.
And they had
a couple NBA titles. Ray Doby.
Yeah,
I always tell people I've never seen a stronger person in my life. Yeah, he. Also, we got another bone to pick here, Coach.
Yeah.
For about 3 straight years, I think we played the number 1 team in the state of Missouri on senior night. Yeah, that was sick and twisted.
That's poor planning on my part. That's poor scheduling.
I think we played Webster Groves 2 years in that stretch, and then my senior year we played CBC, and I was just like, these guys are all going to be in the NBA.
We're just going to let's see if we can play next year. Who could be better than this?
Yeah, that was a very funny stretch. I remember that senior night because we might have played our best game of the season and lost by 12 or something like that. I think Braxton had 7 threes in the game or something.
Just because of the shooting slave he put on.
Yeah, changed his game.
And he just starts shooting it like crazy.
Coach, you got to give in to the look there.
Yeah.
And then you had some really good players that played under you. Who were who would you put on that list of great players that you had to coach against? Some of them, obviously we talked about Jason Tatum. We had guys end up in the NBA. And then there's guys just around here that were unbelievable dominant.
Yeah, a lot of really good players. One time I sat down and we were kind of counting how many guys actually went to the NBA, which is just crazy to think. When I first started coaching, I would have never dreamed you'd coach against any NBA
Right.
guys. But the guy still playing in the NBA now that played at Jeff City, OG
Anunoby. Yeah.
played against him. Obviously Tatum.
I think him and Tatum were in the same draft class.
They were, I think so.
You had,
They were
maybe?
close. They were close. Who was it? Sean Cook.
2-0 in the first round of whatever 2017.
Otto Porter was a crazy player. I still remember we played them in the finals of the Christmas tournament.
Yep.
Bobby Clark comes out and sits down beside me and goes, "Coach, Otto is guarding the high post and the low post right now." I said, "Yeah, I think he is. I think you're right." And they ran a 1-2-2 with that plunger, and he was up top, he was down low, he was everywhere.
That's usually my answer, right? Because I tell people we beat Jason Tatum and CB and Chaminade, but then I'm like, the best or the toughest player I've ever seen is Otto Porter.
He was
like
good.
Trying to make people understand how good he was in high school, and then also the fact that they had Bobby Hatchett and these other guys that were
Drew Thomas.
these guys that were out of this world,
They were really good.
and they had like 75 kids in the entire school, and it's just like, how is this happening? Yeah, Otto Porter was he's at the top of their full court press too. And he was guarding like Caleb Newcomer and Braxton simultaneously. It was just like,
And then looks like he's ain't trying hard.
no,
It just looks like it's as easy as can be just to be out there, could play forever and never get tired.
exactly. Yeah, he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
There were a lot of guys. So yeah, a lot of guys, especially during the back end there. I know.
Yeah, he was good. Then Drew Hanlon at Webster was really good. So we had the big kid at DeSmet was a really good player, and kind of didn't play as well. He went to
Right.
Butler, didn't work out as like he would have liked. Who else was there? CBC had those kids we talked about. Chaminade had Tatum.
Man,
Yeah,
there were so many good. Did you guys go against? Oh, who was it? The Ramey kid and Cartier Gordon. Did you play when they were both together at Webster Groves? I remember you played against Gordon at Vianney.
we played Gordon.
That was
his
at that
freshman
game.
year at Vianney. So I don't think we played them.
I don't believe
Well,
so.
We did play them, not in the playoffs or in the regular season.
Okay.
Yeah.
Played them. Yeah, no, you guys played some. And then even like those Melville teams had the kid that went to
that's right.
SEMO. They had the one big
Bradford.
kid.
You had LaDamian Bradford. Had the SEMO kid. And then there was another
There's another really
his
good guy.
name. He went to Middle Area. He was
Yep.
a really good player.
Yeah. What was that kind of experience like at times as a coach, getting to game plan, and also part of that I talked about, making your kids believe like, hey, we can play against this kid that's going to be in the NBA one day. You might not know that then, but you're playing against these great individual talents, and giving that confidence, belief that they can actually do something against them.
Yeah, I think the key, at this point, the kids that were good at it, it's not that there's some humility of this, and it's because sometimes it can be false, like we can beat these guys, and then it doesn't go well.
Yeah.
And then everybody falls apart. All hope's gone. Oh, we're not. We were wrong, so now we're bad. I think the kids that realize, like, yeah, I'm not as good as this kid. This kid is really good. But I'm not really thinking about that. I'm just going to think I'm going to compete.
Right.
I'm going to just see what happens. So we went through a game plan because, you're always going to have something that you think you can try to exploit, something you're going to try to attack. And I think that's the key.
Yeah.
Because I think, in life in general, and then maybe one of the things that stuck out the most thinking about this, I'm going to forget his name, but I think it's Viktor Frankl. But he talked about when he was in the concentration camp, his book, which is really good. But it talked about the fact that the people that died, they were always the ones that set up. Hey, they're coming. I heard they're coming. We're going to get out in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks would happen. Lose hope and they would die. Or it'd be a month. And for him, he really talked about he let that go. And he just like, here's the moment. Here's where I'm at. I'm going to live my life in this moment.
Right.
And I'm not going to think about, I'm going to get out of this at some point. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's the life lesson for coaching, for whatever it is, because, man, there's so many times in life we can get to this place where we're like, okay, if I get through this, then, this will happen. Or if I get through this, this will happen. And at some point you realize, like, you just wasted your whole life.
Right.
And I think that's from a competition standpoint. Yeah, you want to win, but in the moment, you're not really thinking about winning. You're just thinking about competing. Because I think for me, that's the ultimate thing that you want to be as a competitor. It's not that you love, everybody loves to win. But if you're like driving yourself because you hate to lose, man, that's miserable.
Right.
Like you gotta want to compete. And I think, if anything, if you watched Jordan's Last Dance when he played baseball, I don't know, and maybe I'm reading into it, but what I would say is like, you just watch him and he's like, let's play pool. And he enjoyed playing pool and competing. Like whatever it was, he just wanted to compete.
Right.
Because I think that's what you're trying to develop is the joy of being a competitor more than the winning. Because, hey, I'm okay if we lose. I just want to have a chance to go compete and see what happens. So I think that's the key in those moments, is trying to get them, it's not maybe even the confidence. I mean, yeah, you got to have some confidence, and you got to know, like, hey, I could do this. I think I can do this. Right. You know, or at least think this. I've told them I'd do this in golf, maybe to my detriment. Like, hey, can you make this shot? I don't know. I think I'd make it 1 out of 200 times.
This might be it.
This is it, yeah. And if I don't, well, maybe I got 199 times I'll try. See what happens. And I think that's got to be your mentality in those moments.
And I think that is, especially whenever talent meets that competitive edge that you talk about, or like the desire to compete, is kind of where, you know, players do become special with things like that. And those were some of the guys that I played with that I remember that were like that. It felt like those ended up being the kids that did the best, not on the court, were the ones who, you know, like one guy, you know, Braden Wendell, him and I, we went back and forth talking about whether I took a charge or not on him for about 2 weeks consecutively at one point in time in practice in the old gym one day. And it's just like everything, like you said, is competition. Like, hey, let's push each other. Yeah. Even, you know, there were some intense like FIFA games until 3 o'clock in the morning over Christmas break that we all had as well, and things like that. All important when it comes to competing. Exactly. So, you know, kind of wrapping up a little bit here. You coach, you teach for a long time. Then you get into, you know, involved with FCA. What was kind of the evolution of getting involved with FCA to, you know, your job you have now?
I would say the start was like when Mike Litz talked to me, which is the idea of like getting to minister, just kind of serve coaches, you know, because obviously that's what I'd done, or be around a team, you know, and get to pour into a team or help a coach with character coaching. Like, hey, how could I help you with that? You know, those are the things that got me into it, you know. And then there was a little bit later, like Mike was like, oh, I think I'm going to get out of this. And then that's when the area director came on. And at that point they were, you know, Mike started the ministry. So he did it a little bit different because he was the only guy. Right. And then the goal was, all right, so could we develop a board? Could we develop where we could hire more people so you could try to expand, you know, and like we're trying to break Southeast Missouri up into 3 things. So now, so it became, obviously it's still a ministry. So I minister to the staff. I still get to do ministry. Yep. But now that's the board. But I guess, long story short, the planning, and we talked about that preparation for games and like trying to do stuff. Yep. Like that's kind of like the same thing I get to do in a ministry standpoint, is like you're trying to plan, all right, how can we prepare this? All right, we got these 3 guys, who needs to do what? So that's been really enjoyable of getting to do that. Really challenging at times. You know, anytime you're just dealing with people and you're trying to raise funds, and that can be frustrating at times, but then sometimes super rewarding, kind of like coaching. You get told no a bunch, and then someone blesses you, and then you're like, holy cow, I didn't feel like I deserved that. So that's kind of the thing. I told Mike sometimes I felt like he did a bait and switch. I thought I was going to get to do one thing, and then he told me he was leaving, and then I had to decide. And but it's God's, like, once again, he puts things on your radar and puts you in places that, you know, if you follow his will, it works out. It's just amazing how it works out good for you when you just try to focus on doing what he wants you to do. Right.
And so continuing to kind of let you plug what you're doing currently here. And so, you know, FCA, we'll talk about some of the, you know, positive impact, things like that you've seen since, you know, you've been involved with it.
Oh yeah. And it's, there's so many different things, you know, like for us, one of the positives for us as ministry wise is the fact that, you know, we have Daryl Martin and Cameron Cox, who are a full-time, and now they're working and they're impacting students. And then we have another guy who's interviewed, and he's going to start, and he would hopefully be in the South region. But the thing that you just hear is the fact that, like, when kids' lives are changed, when they're getting poured into, you know, and I think FCA's big thing, I'll say this, is just, you know, to and through the coach. Because if you can impact a coach and you can pour into them, and they can realize the impact they're having on their kids, that's really the ultimate, like, ministry. Right. Because we are a volunteer ministry. But, you know, like, it feels the faith. I'm always amazed at right now, it's like the high school kids, when they give their testimony and they talk about what God's doing in their lives, I think is super impactful. You know, and then we have so many huddles that just have so many outstanding leaders. Mm-hmm. So man, it's like all of those things. And then hearing like Anna Thomason talk about how, you know, last year she fell, right? And then that comeback, but then talking about how when she says like, man, but I can go to track and I can compete for God. And it's really, really fun to glorify him in the way I compete. And talking about how at that moment, because her faith had grown to that point, you know, she wasn't even thinking, going back to your thing, it wasn't thinking about winning. Yeah. Wasn't thinking what's going to happen. She was just like, I just need to get up and compete to glorify God. And then knock on wood, she comes back and wins somehow after falling in her best event. So I think things like that, hearing those stories, And then I got to meet, there was a coach that was just telling me, Cameron Cox is doing some ministry with the Cape Central football team, and just said he took a kid home, and he said, well, how's it going? Did you have a rough? What's everything doing? He goes, Coach, it's good. I got to get close to the Lord today, had a good Bible study, and I got to play football. So, hearing kids say that is pretty rewarding and encouraging.
Right. And then, finally, you talked about Fields of Faith. How kind of cool is it to kind of see your now, I guess, multiple careers kind of connected and come full circle in the way that a guy who did play for you for some bit of time there, like Cooper Callis, and was at school there while you were teaching, coaching. How cool is it to see kind of those moments come full circle, the fruits kind of come like that?
It's been amazing. And even in bigger picture, like to see that and get to talk to him, and when they're adults, just to hear how God's moving in their life. And then that's kind of in this job. I've coached all over, been in Greenville, Poplar Bluff, and then, just coaching and getting to know people. It's just, that's been super enjoyable and beneficial with this, being able to connect with people all over the place. It's been really, really neat.
Yep. So getting back to the basketball here at Saxony this year, one final pitch here to the people. Why should people come out and, check out the Saxony Crusaders this year?
Well, our goal is we want to play really, really hard. And I don't know how well we've done this, but this is where we're trying to move towards, is like, we'd like to impact our community with how we play basketball by showing, Jesus said there's two greatest commandments: love the Lord your God with all your heart, and love your neighbor as yourself. We've tried to translate that. Well, what would that mean in the way you play basketball? And I think one of those ways would be passion and effort and how you compete. Can we compete in a way when people walk away, they're like, man, why do those guys compete so hard? Like, it didn't seem like they should have played like that. And then can you love your teammates? And obviously in all things, adversity, when things don't go well, that's the time. But that's really what we want. We want them to show up and see a bunch of kids that play, and they just play so hard that they're super enjoyable to watch. Yeah. So that these kids, I think they're bought into that, and we're going to keep working. I told them as a staff, that's our job, is we got to find ways to challenge them and put them in spots to keep them getting better, because it's hard. People think it's easy to compete like that and never get upset, and keep your composure, and it's just not easy. Right. There's just a lot of things going on in the world. So that's what I would say. Yep. They're a really enjoyable group, and if we can make some shots, I think we got a chance to get decent.
That always helps too a little bit, doesn't it? Well, Coach, thank you for your time. And like you said, everybody go check out Saxony. Go over into the gym this year. Go watch some good basketball. I'm excited because I started this in the middle of last season, so I get to watch you guys all season long, kind of keep up a little bit better and things like that. So, Coach, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Yeah. So everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. As always, go like, subscribe. Go. Hope I'm doing a good job covering all things for you. I always say it, similar to how your mission is, based on the kids. The big reason I started this is just to get more eyes and ears on kids in the area. And I know how hard they work and practice and things like that, and how much time you guys spend, coaches. And so, that's always been my goal here. So keep following along. I'll always be posting things on social media about when teams are playing, things like that. So appreciate all you guys. We will see you in the next one. Take it easy.